Last year I made a video detailing the horrors of urethral swab and how painful they are. Today I upped the ante with a cystoscopy. Now if the urethral swab was a fingering of the urethra, the cystoscopy was a fisting, nay, an entire arm. The arm of a 7'5" basketball player with a 10-foot wingspan going down my urethra. Now, why I got the cystoscopy is because I've been having recurrent penile problems and they thought it was necessary. I also thought it was necessary. Luckily, everything turned out normal. And I just would like to talk about the experience here, the urethral swab 2.0. Since I talked about urethral swabs, I thought it was only fair that I go the whole 9 yards here and talk about the next iteration of the urethral swab, the next evolution. If the urethral swab was Windows XP, this is Windows 10. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So over the last year, I've kind of become a urethral virtuoso. I know pretty much everything about urethras, what can go in, what can't. I'm kind of a urethral sommelier, if you will, in terms of adventures in the urethra. Now this one was by far my most incredible escapade in the urethral realm so far. Now, before I begin, I know some people actually put things in their urethra for pleasure. It's called sounding. I've looked into it and I can't believe my eyes. I don't know how these creatures can exist. That's neither here nor there. Let's go ahead and start. So, I started by lying down. They pulled out my wiener and they injected a numbing agent into it. And I felt every fucking second of it. It fucking hurt. It felt like my virginity was being injected back into me. It was like a Kamehameha wave of broken glass going through my urethra. And my poor penis ate all of it. Just drank the whole fucking thing bottoms up. The next step was the doctor came in and showed me the flexible scope. And it was intimidating to say the least. It looked like something you'd be strangled with in a Hitman game. And that was going down my urethra. It was massive. It was absolutely fucking massive. They had a nice big flat screen monitor set up, some nice home theater viewing so that way you can get your urethral and bladder spectating pleasure in, and I was welcome to watch on the screen, which of course I did. I wasn't going to miss this opportunity to see what's going on under the hood down there. So he starts inserting the scope in there, and my cock's gobbling it up like Pac-Man chasing a high score, and I'm watching firsthand because I had front row seats and I was going to pass up on these tickets here. After it gets inserted, I turn my attention to the Jumbotron there to check it out on the screen. And man, that was surreal. That was just downright perturbing, really. It looked like the Death Stranding trailer. I half expected to see a baby in there sucking its thumb. Instead of going into the mouth of Norman Reedus, it went into the mouth of my Norman Petus. It was quite the thrill ride, but it was, a little gross too, seeing all that in there. But it was interesting, very interesting. I could feel every movement in there. When he finally got into the bladder, I could feel him moving the camera around, and it really felt like he was playing the crane game inside of me. It was like quite the wild ride. He'd be turning around, and I was like, oh, fuck, now he's playing Gran Turismo in there. And as surprising as this may be to some of you, it did not feel good at all. And the lube they were using was running down onto my nutsack, and I thought I was peeing all over everyone, and I thought I was some type of fucking middle school science project with the volcano and the vinegar, and it was just leaking all over the place. Thought I was peeing everywhere. So then I was embarrassed, but I was still watching the screen because I wasn't that embarrassed. I wanted to see everything going on in there. And then in one swift motion, he pulls it all out like he had just hooked a fish on the line, and then that was the end of that. Hurt real good. But I will say the urethral swab, 10 times worse. A lot worse. The urethral swab is still the king of pain in terms of urethra stuff, but I thought it was at least worth detailing the next step of a urethral swab. Now, there is a rigid scope for Cisco's. That's a whole new ball game. That's playing Cisco's on hard mode right there. That is, from what I understand, like trying to insert a large oak tree through a crazy straw. There's a lot worse things that can happen with the rigid scope, and it's apparently a lot worse, and it makes a lot more sense that it would hurt worse because, it's a fucking, it's a hunk of steel basically going into your urethra. At least the flexible scope was flexible. But yeah, so between the urethral swab and the urethral swab 2.0, the OG urethral swab was far more painful, but it was worth at least detailing this experience just for the sake of, keeping the urethral adventures, getting them out there, telling the urethral tales that you can tell your children before bedtime, so that way they too fear the urethral swabbing boogeyman and such, as well they should. So yeah, this was my latest escapade in the urethral adventures, and yeah, I should also mention post-op Cisco how it feels. It feels like I'm just constantly leaking lava. It burns and my undergarments are wet, so I'm definitely leaking, that's for sure. and it doesn't feel good. It feels like I've got some hot charcoal bricks down there. It's like I'm smuggling drugs for the drug cartel, except the drugs are nothing but hot fucking mulch in there. So that's how it feels now. Hopefully it'll go away soon. And yeah, that's it. See ya.